Hey everyone, welcome. Yeah, we're going to wait just a minute or two longer before we kick things off for people to filter in. Awesome, everyone. Welcome to the first Filecoin Green Meetup. We are aiming to do these every month. So the next one is likely going to be on March 1st, which is a Tuesday. Yeah, so this is just a chance to hear some updates on what's happening in Filecoin Green, to get an idea of some really neat projects that people are working on that are related to Filecoin Green. And just to have some discussions around that. So our agenda today, I'm going to first give an update on some of the things that have been going on. Then we're going to hear from Hida from Descent Hosting on installing solar on their roof in order to power some of their Filecoin operations. Then we're going to hear from Beltran and Daniel on from Zero Labs on setting up a renewable energy marketplace that's going to allow people in Filecoin and from other ecosystems and other industries even to connect to renewable energy and do that in a Web3 native way. And at the end of each of these presentations, there should be a few minutes to have, one or two questions. And then our plan is after all of that, after all the three presentations, there's going to be some time for us to just have a discussion and anyone to bring up anything Filecoin Green related you're interested in or wondering about or ideas you have, and us just sort of talk through that. So, the main presentations will probably go for about 45 minutes. And then I can stay on for an hour or so to talk to people if you are interested. So our goal of Filecoin Green is to turn verifiable environmental accounting into a Filecoin superpower. And this is important to me because the stakes are really, really high, right? So here's, the last couple hundred years of global temperatures. They're going up in this historically high rate. If you extend this, back not just hundreds of years, but thousands of years, the world has been in this relatively narrow temperature bound. And now temperatures are just skyrocketing, and it's not good. And we should do something to fix it. Specifically, we have until about 2030 to halve global greenhouse gas emissions to avoid the worst effects of climate change, which is not a long time, and until about 2050 to become net zero globally, which means we need to take a lot of action really, really quickly. And so where we think Filecoin comes into this is that when companies or individuals are making these public claims, you need data to back up those claims. So if you're making sustainability claims, those claims ideally shouldn't just be, these glossy PDFs that are a few lines that tell people what you're doing and give you credit for that. You should be able to back up your sustainability claims with real data. And we think that Filecoin is the best place to store, especially public data underlying environmental claims. Filecoin is, of course, the best place to store any data, but especially if you want to be able to make these public sustainability claims and back them up. And the reason that Filecoin is a particularly good fit for that is that if you store your data on Filecoin, it's decentralized, it's hosted on servers all over the world, not just controlled by one company. It's verifiable, so it makes it easy to ensure the integrity of that data. It's persistent because storage providers prove that they're continuing to store your data over time, and it's content addressed. So smart contracts can easily use it. And we think that smart contracts factoring in sustainability into their decisions is going to be a huge new frontier of sustainability. And so we are doing this by building tools and processes which account for and lower the environmental impact of the network. Tools and processes that help storage providers prove that they're using renewable energy and make these really solid public claims. Tools and processes would pass environmental data through the Filecoin ecosystem. So that's something that we're really just starting to build out now, but we really want people to be able to take energy use for storage providers and renewable energy connected to that energy use into account when they're making decisions, and provide new solutions for environmental accounting. And we can construe this really broadly, and we really want to hear what your ideas are for building out any of these tools. A major theme of everything that you're going to hear today is that this goes in both directions, right? So we're making Filecoin itself more sustainable. We're measuring the environmental impact of Filecoin, trying to lower that environmental impact and connect it to renewable energy and other types of environmental, they call them environmental products, but things like carbon offsets, all of that we're thinking about. And then the other way it goes is using Filecoin to raise the standards for publicly verifiable environmental accounting by storing data sets related to sustainability and related to climate on Filecoin, so you can publicly back up those claims. And so here's our, in terms of what we've been working on, here's an update on part of what we're doing. Our approach to energy attribute certificates is, I think, really granular and really precise and publicly verifiable relative to what a lot of other people are doing. So we have spent quite a while looking at Filecoin energy use and modeling the energy use of Filecoin storage providers based on on-chain records, right? So the Filecoin blockchain has this unusual property that everyone who contributes storage to the network has a record of precisely what that storage is, right? We can see when storage providers are sealing data because they, provide it as a record on chain. Then we can see how much data is being stored over time, and we can estimate the energy used to both seal data and store data over time, and do that in this really, really granular level, right? So for every storage provider, we can see all of this data. And so on the left here, if you're interested in the model that we've built, we have sort of a draft of an academic style paper at this GitHub repo, Filecoin Energy Estimation. You can read more about the model that we use to actually translate on-chain records to energy use. And I am, happy to get feedback of on any of this. And, we're very interested in improving all of these models over time. But so we took that model, we took that research and turned that into this dashboard. And so if you go to filecoin.energy, you can look at the network level, how much energy we believe is being used. This is a lower bound and upper bound and an estimate. And if you type in an individual storage provider, so an individual miner ID, you can get the energy use for that individual storage provider, right? And so our approach to energy attribute certificates is to use all of that really granular, detailed data in order to connect Filecoin to renewable energy throughout the world, right? And so what that looks like is you take these energy use profiles for individual miner IDs, and you can map them, and connect them to renewable energy in that location, right? Because if it's not just that Filecoin, quote, uses renewable energy, right? Anyone who uses energy on the power grid uses energy in a particular place, and you need to match that energy with the energy consumption with renewable energy that's produced on that power grid. And so what we've been doing here is really scaling up purchases of renewable energy. So the way this works in renewable energy markets, and you're going to hear a lot more about this in the second presentation today, or I guess the third presentation, if mine is the first, about how these renewable energy markets work, right? So a solar installation produces power. It also produces the renewable attributes of that power, which are sold as certificates, energy attribute certificates. Those can then be mapped to energy consumption on the same power grid, like I said. And here's what we've been doing is, in August 2021, we did this proof of concept with the Energy Web team, which is now spinning out this effort into Zero Labs, you're going to hear from. We bought about 712 megawatt hours of EACs in order to just show that you can do this, right? That you can take this model of how much energy individual miner IDs use, you can map that to a given place, and then you can attribute particular EACs to that miner ID, right? So it's not just using renewable energy. You're saying, okay, this particular miner ID consumed this amount of solar energy from this particular solar farm, say. So we did that proof of concept in Q3 2021. We then scaled that up by buying a lot more EACs, so 83,000 megawatt hours in November of 2021. We're continuing to scale that up, right? And you're going to hear a lot more from Zero Labs on where that whole effort is going. And so another thing that we're doing is building new opt-in pathways for verifying public claims. This is something that's very new and that we're working on right now. The idea here is that we'd like to do a few things that go beyond just these estimates if the storage provider wants to. So again, this is totally opt-in. What you're going to be able to do is submit a power bill if you want to, set of miner IDs, documentation of your setup, the information that you have available and want to submit. And we're going to allow a third party to look at that and say, yes, this actually was the power use for this particular miner ID or set of miner IDs. This is the location, not super granular location, not publishing an address or anything, just saying this is the general location, the city or the county where this energy was consumed. And that's really important for a few different things, right? Having this pathway exist is going to be really important for making super strong claims about location if a storage provider wants to do that. It's important for tying energy use or tying our assessment of Filecoin's environmental impact to real measurements rather than just estimates, right? Because that does a couple things. Among them, it aligns incentives such that if you use less energy, then you don't have to cover that with as many EACs, right? So you really want this ultimately to be based on measurements, or at least allow a pathway for it to be based on measurements if a storage provider is interested in that. And then this is also going to be a pathway where if a storage provider wants to certify, say for a client who wants to store data, wants to know where that data is stored, this provides another way that you can prove that the data is actually being stored at this particular location, right? And so, if you have thoughts on this or want to try it, feel free to email me at alan@protocol.ai. This is just something that we are working on proving out right now. And so another thing that we've been working on are integrations. So if you want data as to how much energy the Filecoin network is using, how much energy individual storage providers are using, or how much renewable energy that's connected to, there are options being built right now to give you that information, right? And we're really excited to see what people are going to build using this information. So the Filecoin.energy dashboard has an API where you can look at energy use estimates. You can also look at the just amount of data sealed or stored over time from that API. Then the Energy Web 0 interface, which is is now being spun out into Zero Labs, also gives you an API where you can look at specific renewable energy purchases by a given storage provider, right? And so you can say, okay, give me all of the renewable energy purchases corresponding to this given miner ID. It'll tell you where was that renewable energy produced, what dates was it produced, was it solar, was it wind, was it hydro, and give you more information so that you can, make your own assumptions and calculate what you think a renewable energy score should be. If you want an example looking at these energy use estimates, pulling this data from the Filecoin.energy API, you can look at this Filecoin powered by region. It's just a simple example of how to do that. And if you want more information on this, I'm happy to give you, any information so you can start hacking on this. These APIs are definitely not, stable right now, but it's good enough for you to start trying them and start building some stuff on top of them. So, please get involved. Beyond today, we're really excited to, talk with you, hear your ideas, get feedback from you, hear what you have to say. Please, join Filecoin-Green on Filecoin Slack. If you want updates on events in the future and initiatives that we're going to be working on, you can go to tinyurl.com/Filecoin-green-updates. And enter your email. There's a couple options if you want to tell us what particular initiatives you're interested in, or if you want to give a talk at a future Filecoin Green Meetup. We would love to hear from you back. And so I think I can take a couple of questions now. And then, like I said, after the other two presentations, I'm going to be around for a while to just have a discussion with people. I think someone just unmuted. So I'll just grab a couple of questions from the chat. Let's see. Yes, so yes, the last part will be important for people country residents. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, GDPR is a large sort of use case for this. So, you know, GDPR being if a client wants to certify that data, you know, is stored at a particular place, that's really important for some regulations. Julius, I think you're raising your hand. Do you want to unmute and ask a question?
Yes, sir. Alan, can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Okay. Yeah, I know you didn't really kind of introduce yourself. I wanted to know, can we have like, can I maybe talk to you like a one-on-one at some point as relates to, you know, providing this green energy through decentralized platforms?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Feel free to book time on my Calendly if you want. I can drop that in the chat. And yeah, happy to talk to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Then where's the money for the EAC purchases coming from? So what we're doing right now is just Protocol Labs is just buying EACs and airdropping them on the network. We really want to get to a point where, you know, a large fraction of the network is covered by renewable energy, because we think that's going to be really good for Filecoin. You're going to hear from Zero Labs about this marketplace that they're building that's going to be integrated with all of the efforts that we've been sort of undertaking in order to, you know, allow people in the Filecoin ecosystem and also beyond it to buy renewable energy and connect that in a Web3 native way to whatever their project is. But yeah, for now, we're just buying EACs and handing them out to storage providers. All right, thank you. So I think that's what I have for now. As I said, I will stick around for a while. I'll also drop my Calendly in the chat. And I think we are ready for Hida to talk about Descent and installing solar in order to run Filecoin.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome, everyone. Let me try and share my screen first. Let me see. Is everybody able to see the presentation? Perfect. Well, my name is Hida Hoogland. I'm the CEO of Decent, together with my partner, Wijnand Schouten. He's not at the office right now, but I think he's in the chat somewhere. So we are one of the largest data centers in Europe running Filecoin right now, and I will show you how we are cooperating with Filecoin Green at the moment. So we are Decent, and since the launch of the protocol, we have been operating as a large store provider and as a client in the European region, and we are leading the way on efficient and data distribution. So we are a data center. We have been constructed since early last year, since February. Before that, we were running an Ethereum farm at the same location, but we decided to sell off. And then we started Filecoin DC. We are specialized in data storage, enterprise networking, and mining. And we are, at this moment, we are one of the largest storage providers with more than 30 petabytes of storage capacity and a maximum daily seeding rate of 35 terabytes. Most of our partners are located globally. But here you can see some of them colored in blue. So our pink one is us. We are located slightly above Amsterdam. We have a backup in Amsterdam at Global Switch, and we have our own DC in Heerhugowaard. It's about 52 kilometers above Amsterdam. And in the Global Switch, the data center in Amsterdam, we are located to most of the large internet exchanges, and we are facilitating our internet traffic through them. The large clients we selected here some of them are DSM and Holland and Picnic and others from Europe. So the team consists of me and my partner Wijnand, and we have an IT department and a development department, but they are not part of the actual company. My experience lies in mining. I've been doing Ethereum and BTC farm for the last 6 or 7 years. And I've also constructed multiple DCs the last years for those farms. My partner has a lot of experience in Usenet. He's been running one of the largest Usenet companies in the Netherlands till 2008. And he's a specialist or network specialist in BGP. Oh. So the first time I met Alan was about 3 months ago. We just launched a Filecoin Green channel on Slack, and I was chatting with him, asking, what can I do to make things better for you? And we were chatting, and eventually one of the first things he said was, please contact your energy provider and ask to have wind or solar energy. So I did that, and Decent has been purchasing these energy certificates since the 1st of January, so about a month now. And so all of the energy is actually green, what we are using at the location. Well, then I asked to Alan, is there anything else we can do? And we started chatting about wind and solar. So the only option at our DC is solar. So I made a solar application, an open grant proposal with 3 phases. An orientation phase to research the best possible ways to save energy inside this DC with a solar installation. Then a development phase, actually developing and installing the solar panels and installation on the roof, and begin working on the APIs required for all the data extraction that we will send to the data dashboard that Alan is constructing, and the finalization phase to make everything work properly. So we eventually ended up with these schedules. As you can see, we have a quite large roof surface, but most of the roof's surface is from other renters in this location. So we ended up with 3 separate plans, which will be added together to fill up our whole roof. As you can see, we have about 238 roof panels, adding up to more than 80,000 kilowatts of production a year. And we already began installation. It was about a week ago. It was still sunny then, a little bit cold, a little bit of ice, and of course a Dutch windmill in the corner. The actual solar panels will arrive in about 2 weeks, and we will make pictures and documentations of the complete installation for you guys. So what are the actual deliverables for everybody connected to Filecoin Green? First of all, the API tooling. We will create an API tools for data extraction from the inverter, from the solar panels, from our power bars, and from all the machines running Lotus software. We will make this public, so if there's anyone else trying to do the same thing, they can just use our software that we built. We're also creating ROI sheets for everybody to make a calculation. Is this feasible for us? Not everybody is running hardware in their own location, but for the people who are, we have a sheet ready for you to make a calculation if this is feasible to plan. Then the third thing is audits. We will have an external company do a full audit on our whole DC, from our hardware installation to the solar installation to all the API connection, the toolings, for them to check if everything is working properly, and they will make an external report. And lastly, we will have full documentation on the whole installation and project for everybody to use. So what will be the results? Why are we doing this? Well, first of all, the emissions will be reduced by 52,000 kilograms per year. That's a lot for us. And as we are a Filecoin storage provider, we are not using that much electricity. Most data centers will use a lot more, but luckily hard drives do not use that much electricity. So we will be able to cut our yearly costs by around 40% with the production of 80,000 kilowatt hours yearly. The next thing is transparency. Everything will be visible for clients and everybody participating with the Filecoin Green. And a lower TCO is awesome for investors at our side who are willing to invest into the Filecoin ecosystem. So for us, it is a great option to have. Any questions from anyone? Well, if you want any more information about the installation, we will make an extra page on our Decent site early next week, where we upload all the pictures and the results from the solar installation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Hida. I think I'm really excited about getting this installation and sort of seeing it up and running and being able to, you know, publicly verify, right, that you have this co-located solar production with Filecoin storage, and being able to you know, show the world, right, like as a function of time, right, here's the amount of energy that's being consumed by your storage provider operation, here's the amount of energy being produced, and like here's the amount of energy coming in from the grid, and making that all just really transparent, right, because people want to know, like, how is an actual blockchain system interacting with the grid, and you know, if you can show, right, that you're producing, you know, a large fraction of the energy that you're using, I think that's a really powerful thing to show.
We actually made the calculation that if we stop sealing and we just store the raw data for all the clients, then we actually make more yearly energy production with the panels than with our usage. So we are then a surplus, but including the growth, then we will be in the minus. But most of the electricity actually sits in the sealing process. The actual storing of data is not that it's not that high. I think an average hard drives use about 4 to 5 watts idle. So that's compared. I've been mining Ethereum for 4 years. That's a different story. The whole Filecoin ecosystem was built to be this way. It's way better. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, Harold asked about making the data available through an API.
Yes, well, a few APIs are even open. We were discussing this last week. There are 3 routes. The first one is an open API from our energy provider. We can just see all the usage of the whole DC. The second one we will make ourselves from the hardware. And the third one is also open. It's from the inverter. So it all depends on how we're going to structure this, but yeah.
Awesome, thanks. So I think we can move on to our next presentation, Beltran and Daniel from Zero Labs.
Yes, hi, and congrats, Hida, very nice work. Would love to know more. I've asked more about the API and stuff, but we can chat at a different moment. I'll share the screen too, and share the screen. Share, please let me know when you see it. Everybody seeing it? Yes?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And hi guys, like Alan introduced us, it's Daniel and myself here from Zero Labs. We are building this tool, a series of tools to do programmable sustainability. That's why we were interested in the API system that you're looking into. And it's a little bit of a presentation on us. We come from Energy Web. For those that don't know Energy Web, it's like a global institution, non-profit institution that aims at decarbonizing the energy sector through decentralized technologies. They've developed the Energy Web chain and other tech stacks. And we all were at Energy Web and started working for this project with Filecoin to decarbonize the Filecoin network. And right now we are spinning out as an official spin-off of Energy Web into this new startup to pursue specifically this project. It comes from a long line, or we've been at it since late 2020, at the beginning as a marketplace for renewable energy certificates. We're going to talk about that. But then we focus more on crypto and on how do we prove that crypto can be carbon free. And the Crypto Climate Accord is this initiative started by Energy Web, of course, where any crypto individual, minor institution, etc., can participate to share the knowledge about how to actually decarbonize crypto. And why we are doing this is, Alan spoke about it at the very beginning. The world is not on the right path. So the energy industry is the biggest problem in the climate crisis. Like 73% of the greenhouse gases are emitted by the energy sector in different industries, of course. And 80% of that is still fossil fuel. So that's where we want to incentivize the creation of new renewable projects and convert that 80% in all renewables. And I would like to run a poll. I don't know if there's many people who actually know what renewable energy certificates are. I'm just going to give a small primer, but it would be cool to know if the community was already aware of renewable energy certificates. So if you're in the space, you probably have heard of them or have heard of carbon offsets. Renewable energy certificates are a standard across the world in different locations. They have different names. Alan called them energy attribute certificates. That certify that a certain amount of energy a certain amount of electricity comes from renewable sources. Okay, in different locations, we talked very quickly about this. They have different names. There's different standards. Okay, in North America, in Europe, in the rest of the world. There's a bunch of others. So it's a complex market. We, for simplifications, call them renewable energy certificates. Their proper name would be energy attribute certificates. And they are different from carbon offsets because for us, they actually incentivize the creation of new renewable projects, while carbon offsets are incentivizing third-party projects to prove that a certain, or to contribute to a reduction or a capturing of greenhouse emissions somewhere else in the world. While renewable energies prove that you are the active role player in this transition. And people get confused sometimes. Okay, my utility is 70, or my country is 70% green, so I'm 70% green. You can't actually say it until you actually hold the certificates, because once an electron has been put into the grid, there's no way to know where it came from. So if other people claim those free or green electrons, they are the actual ones who have used the green electricity. So these certificates are the only way to prove that your consumption is truly green. And Danielle and anybody, please stop me or ask me any questions at any time. So what we are building is a tool to prove that this electricity is green, that the energy is green. We are building these green proofs, or proofs for green electricity, but also maybe in the future for other products. And we want to, for example, demonstrate that HIDE is green and all the other Filecoin miners are green, and we are using the blockchain to do it. So we are creating a Web3 native way of proving it, not those commitments, you know, when you are on an airplane buying a ticket and say, offset my flight, you don't have a transparency, you don't know where that came from or where that money goes to. We want to provide these public proofs that anybody could share as a brand. And of course, the public proof is linked on the blockchain. And we have all the tracing of the transaction from the creation of the NFT to the selling and to the redemption, which is this term used to close the certificate and say only you are the actual owner. So these are some of the properties of these tokenized renewable energy certificates. They are NFTs. Many of you are in the space, so you understand what it means. It's a non-fungible token. There is only one of that. An NFT proves that a certain amount of electricity, of megawatt hours, has been produced in a specific time frame, and that only a person that holds that NFT and that has canceled that NFT is the real beneficiary of that renewable energy. They can be transferred, so there can be a market for it. There is buyers and sellers, and of course we want to facilitate through our marketplace that function. They can be locked. This is also common to carbon offset, if you're familiar. It means just that it cannot be sold anywhere else, so that it cannot be double counted again. Only the end recipient is the actual owner. And the fancy, interesting stuff that we can do in Web3, of course, they can be fractionalized so that we can go down to the watt level or the kilowatt level to enable other smaller buyers, not just the big consumers, to participate in this transition. They can be pooled together, and there's an idea about creating tokens or pools of tokenized different types of renewables for DeFi composability, but that's in the future. And especially they are programmable. So we are aiming at enabling all of you and any other creator to actually build on top of this primitive. We wanted to build a primitive for the next age in this Anthropocene, where we can actually all contribute to the refi and build on top with this proofs of green electricity and other green products. We can show you an example. Am I still sharing? Do you see this new slide? It's not a slide.
Yes, we see the other one.
Thank you. So this is a live proof that it's an example where we can share the information about the buyer, the seller. You have all the technical information about this certificate, the amount, when was the period that this buyer wanted to prove green, okay, from what source, in what location, okay, and we have all the history of all the transactions from when the certificate was created on chain, it was transferred from the source, from the generator to the broker, to us or another broker, and then to the final owner, and the redemption of the certificate. Of course, all these are connected to the Block Explorer, and you can validate that these proofs are on the Block Explorer as well. And so this was a quick example. And Danielle, if you want to talk a bit about the status of our project and what we've been up to.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of similarity, but this was a little bit covered also by Alan at the beginning. When we started with only a couple of minor IDs. If I'm not mistaken, there was around 5 or 6. We bought 714 certificates in the batch one, as when we were fully with Energy Web, to try to demonstrate that this was possible, right? So we went into the test, putting elements on chain, understanding and connecting it with the reputational system from Filecoin, and it was actually very successful. And then the second idea and the second phase, especially coming from Alan, was, well, how can we scale this, right? So then we went ahead, Filecoin went ahead and they bought 82,000 new certificates to cover other big amount, some of the same minor IDs plus new ones. Those are the ones that we are already right now adding them to the system. And then there is already a batch 3 of other, I think that if I'm not mistaken, it's around 700,000 together. So there are two sub batches in there. That is what is coming next now in February. So between February and March, we are going to have all those in the system. So until now, if we count only what we call batch 1 and batch 2, is around 84,000 recs that we were putting that we have in the system, and that some of them are fully connected with the reputational system. Other ones are in the making as we speak right now, right? In terms of orders, so how many purchases we were doing on around 75 minor IDs that are impacted right now, seeing the information in the reputational system at around 15, and they represent recs that were acquired from 7 different countries, several in Europe and in the United States, even in Australia and in China. That what we know that there are a lot of minor IDs, right? If we move, can you move forward? Yeah. This is a little bit an example. Beltran, do you want to talk about the example?
Yeah, sure. Or you can go. It's an example of how a miner or a storage provider in China has bought 168 megawatt hours. In this case, the standards is IREC. Okay, so you can see it here. And the average price is very cheap. These RECs across the world have different prices, but right now they're very cheap. So they bought it at $1.1 per megawatt hour. So they spent a total of $185 for 4 months of operation in China. Just to give an example and a sense of what the scale and the and cost of these things are.
Yeah. And there is something very important. Can you go a little bit? So the prices of the RECs depend a lot on the source, on the country where they were produced, and of course on the demand, right? So we have been seeing here an example that is around $1.1 per megawatt in those per certificate, we can say, in China, but they might vary up to 40, 50 euros, and depending on the parts of the country, and also part of how much are you supporting the generators in the back. There are even some type of certificates, more special certificates that are supporting a project in the back. So with that idea, you are not also consuming the electricity, but also, as Beltran has been saying, incentivizing and actually even directly supporting the new development of renewable generators, right?
Okay, yeah. And so this was a little bit about what we've built, and we are going to talk about where we're going also. But right now there is a few thoughts about how does this benefit Filecoin. Of course, as Alan said, we want to prove the network green, and so that global effort is what we are aiming at. The advantage of showing that your storage is green, we think, is going to be, besides an advantage with your reputation system, with the field rep. I think many businesses in the future are going to be looking for green solutions. We received some requests on this front, for example, not on the storage field, but to prove any crypto green. So institutions are asking, hey, we do want to get into crypto, but we need to prove that that crypto is green for our stakeholders. And I think that will soon translate into anything that we do, including storage. So that part is one of the benefits. The other one is, of course, the system that we are building is enabling another point or variable in the score that you will get in your reputation system. We are not the ones designing the reputation system, but we are enabling that connection. If Alan then maybe wants to talk about that. And it is another use case for Filecoin, of course. We are going to store the PDFs of all these certificates on Filecoin. So it's another demonstration of the usefulness of the Filecoin network.
Yeah, one clarification about the PDF, just in the moment. Normally, when a certificate is redeemed, that means that it's taken out from the market and then reserved to you. So you get like a attestation and a certification that it says that you were the one who acquired that certificate and the only person who can claim that that green energy was generated on your behalf. This is normally by the market today generates those PDF on your name, and we are working in the level of granularity. By the level of time today is one part of the problems, but the part is like is going to be this is the final proof that you have that in the real world, apart from the from what the address that you have in blockchain, and there are tons of PDFs to be for each transaction to be storage, and this is the one that we would like to utilize and leverage the Filecoin network to storage all of them, not only for you guys, for miners and consumers from Filecoin, but also for anybody else using our system and our platform.
And someone raised a hand. I don't know if it's a relevant question, or we are almost done. We can get to the questions unless it's connected to exactly this. I'll just keep going. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was talking about I was talking about the REX, the cost of them. The gentleman was talking before you. He was talking about the amount, the cost of them varies, depends on what location that you're purchasing the REX from. And I think he kind of answered my question. He said I think it was between $1 and $40 to $45, depending on the area of how much a REX will cost.
Right. So right. He answered your questions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he said. I wanted to just I wanted to see that if that's what exactly
yes,
we said.
That's correct. That's correct. The prices vary a lot depending on the location, depending on the source, and the country where that energy was generated. Those are around the prices. So you can see how exponential the prices changes, right? Between $1 and $50. So it might
between $1 and $50. Okay. And one other question. The REX before the blockchain technology came about, we know the REX were manually done. Now are you all saying you are developing a platform where you are going to integrate the manual REX purchase, where they get repurchased and retire in a manual system? You all is going to integrate that into the blockchain technology? That's what y'all doing now?
Yes, we are connecting, of course, with the traditional registries, and yes, we are linking. We are basically creating a blockchain version of that attestation that is public, and we are, of course, providing it in here. You can always go to the source registry and check that the specific REC has been actually issued and redeemed, so that there's not being double counting. We are making that more liquid and fluid and digital and faster and easier to do computationally programmable, so that we can do a bunch of the things that I was going to talk in our roadmap, of course, for example. So that's thank you for the question, because it gave us a good segue. That's exactly what we are aiming at doing. We are connecting and making the legacy world of registry, which is slow and technologically prehistoric in some situations, in some instances, into something more modern and Web3 oriented, okay? So that we can have the proofs and we can program on top of them, and so that we enable cases like the reputation system. And what we want to do is maybe chat with some of you, show you some parts of this application, and validate some ideas about the UX flows. We want this to simplify your lives in wanting to be green and improving it to your clients, of course. So batch 3, Daniel mentioned a little bit about batch 3. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more about that.
No, well, we were mentioning that during February, like Alan was also mentioning, there is we are in batch number 1 was around 80,000 certificates, and batch number 3 together is going to be around almost 800,000, right? So, and the main goal is during Q1 or in beginning of Q2 try to make Filecoin green from the backwards, right? So then try to acquire all the certificates for everything that the network was consuming since the instance, right? So that's batch 4 potentially and beyond, right?
Yeah, so Filecoin green from Genesis, exactly that. And we are designing a module to help anybody really verify that there's no double counting in a way that is easier than a block explorer, so that it's much more readable. Anybody can verify it, that there is that connection with the traditional certificates, etc. And the next steps, of course, are going to be that calculation of the automatically measuring your consumption. Maybe with the efforts that Hide and Alan are also doing, we can all come together and find that system to actually measure how much consumption any storage provider is using in a specific location. Maybe that is a project in itself, but the idea is we want to work on that because we don't want you to submit every quarter or whatever your electric bills and stuff. We want to make it as automatic as possible, and that's where maybe subscriptions comes in. You simply subscribe and maybe even pay in your Filecoin tokens that you earn. That is automatically, you can prove that is green. That would be ideally our best UX scenario, and we're going to work towards that direction.
Yeah, and one thing that is actually very important before that is not only, I think that what Filecoin is trying to do is going way ahead to comparing to any other protocol. And then I know that Alan has been also working a lot in trying to determine what is the best way to measure that consumption, right, moving forward. But also it's very early to try to understand, to try to measure good consumption in other protocols. So actually, even with any work that we are doing here, might be also very useful later on for other protocols to try to determine that. Because on one side, we want to make very easy to acquire these RECs. On the other side, we need to understand what is the real consumption and how to make that possible, right? So it goes beyond that, right? And I think the cat has a question.
Exactly. And so maybe we are taking a lot of time, but I was thinking maybe we can actually share. Ah, man, I'm missing the thing. We can share just a little bit of that flow, not all of it, but to imagine where you come, you choose that you are a Filecoin, you're on Filecoin or another network, that you're a storage provider, that you have miner 1, 2, 3. Where are you based? I don't know. I'm based in Spain, for example. Spain, there you go. And I want to offset my consumption from this period to this period. Of course, it's in the future, so it will be hard, but it's a demo, and I don't know, 25 megawatt hours. And so there's kind of a little wizard where you can select certain things. And after that, we can send you an offer for the amount of RECs that you are interested in buying. This very quick flow, we would like to test some parts with any volunteer who would like to use a test with us to help us improve and answer some questions. So that would be cool if we could have a conversation. And we had a few questions for you, because these are on Energy Web Chain, or the first batch was on Volta, the demo was on Volta, of course. Because these are NFTs, we would like to know if all of you have an Ethereum address, and it would be a cool, an easy feature to redeem on the name of an Ethereum address. That would be a poll for you guys. I don't know if we can run a poll in here. Would it be possible or difficult, Alan?
I think you'd have to set that up beforehand. I mean, maybe it makes sense to sort of go into questions from people in the audience, and then we can email people or reach out through the Filecoin Slack.
Yeah, let's go with questions, and we we will post the 3 questions for you in the Slack channel for you to answer. Sure. Questions, guys and ladies.
Looks like Alan had one, and then Julius had another one.
Yeah, sorry. Alan, okay, am I right? A Filecoin purchased Rex, which is proven on the blockchain, which is to be stored on Filecoin? Yes, Filecoin purchased these Rex, and they are proven on the blockchain. And the PDFs, they are not yet stored on Filecoin, but they will be. We are looking into Estuary and other systems to upload the PDFs onto Filecoin. Yeah. We are really green. This is actually our first, we are not officially launched yet. We are launching with you guys. And our full website is coming out tomorrow. So, and the announcement that we are live. So there's a bunch of things that we are still building. Who had the next question? I didn't see here. In future, can miners pay the bills with Phil, Energy Web token, or other crypto assets? Yes, that is our aim. Of course, how to enable crypto payments is both a legal problem and a little bit of a technical one, but we, of course, want to enable crypto payments.
I think Julius had a question.
Okay, sorry.
Now the question I had, I think he mentioned something about Ethereum. He was trying to do a test. He wanted somebody was asking about, do we have Ethereum addresses? And I was just saying, yes, I have.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, maybe we could just go with hands raised. I hope that answers all your questions, or if you have any more questions, we are setting up and launching probably tomorrow all our channels, but you can already start following us or be at zerolabs.green. I'll drop it also in the Filecoin Green channel. Happy to hear from any of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we started working with Beltran and Daniel initially when they were at Energy Web, because Energy Web is sort of the farthest along in tokenizing EACs or renewable energy certificates. And we're really looking for a Web3 native way to connect Filecoin energy use to existing renewable energy markets, right? And so we started working with them and did this proof of concept demo. You can look at some of what we've done already. And I'm really excited that you're spinning out Zero Labs, because I think this is sort of a really perfect blockchain use case, right? Where people outside of the industry, right, can see how in order to track a chain of custody of these renewable energy certificates, you really need to demonstrate who owns them at any given time. You need to demonstrate there's no double counting. You need to provide sort of a provenance back to the registry in which they're recorded, and ultimately to the device that actually produced this renewable energy, right? So I think this is a great use case where, as I said at the beginning, we're going both directions, right? We're using this to make Filecoin green, and we're also using this to store underlying data. So I posted a few PDFs that are stored on Filecoin showing the actual renewable energy certificates that are mapped to Filecoin storage providers, right? So we're using Filecoin to provide new avenues for proving renewable energy use in use cases that go beyond Filecoin itself. So I'm really excited about this effort and continuing to support it. I think if anyone else has questions, particularly about Zero Labs, we can take them now. Feel free to raise your hand. If no one has them in a minute or two, I think we'll just turn off the recording and live stream, and we can have a conversation of whatever anyone wants to bring up or ask about.
I had a question. One more question about the certification of the RECs and the offsets. Who will be certified? Would it be a third-party certifier?
Okay. Yeah. So there's
you all plan on being a third-party certifier?
So one of the issues there, right, is you want to avoid fragmentation, right? Because if there's, a bunch of different certifiers, right, that are all recording recs, that can be a problem, right? So everything Zero Labs is doing is resolving to the existing registry where renewable energy is already recorded. There's a little bit of talk about that in the chat. Not specifically answering your question, but just people are talking about the differences between registries and different.
Yeah, there you go, Greeny. Okay, he put up Greeny. That's the third party. Yes. So you all will be using that company as the third
across
party.
the world. There's different registries, different standards have different registries. Each location has its own registry, and we are simply putting up. In this case, this example was from. The US, of course, and you could see the Greeny attestation.
Yes, I'm familiar with them. Yeah, Greeny. That's why I was asking about who will be the third party certifies on the renewable energy certificates and credit offsets.
Like Greeny, there's other registries across the world for different countries. And they are government mandated institutions sometimes, and we are, of course, taking their certification and simply making it digital, if you want, or more digital.
Okay, you answered my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for coming. If people have, topics of conversation or questions you want to ask about sort of any of it, I'm happy to stick around and chat.
Alan, I want to thank you, Daniel, and Beltran for all the information. Thanks for having me. I do need to hop on the next call in a few minutes, but it was awesome.
You too.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you too. This is really exciting to see all the work that's getting done here. It's fascinating to watch this develop.
And yeah, I can put my Calendly in the chat too if anyone here wants to talk with me individually. Happy to do that.
Thank you all also for having us. Really excited about being able to share the project with you guys.
Yeah, we can make sure that we put the slides on Slack for everybody to check later.
What are some of the regional national particularities related to the rec markets that you've encountered? Well, different registries have different levels of digitization, so they work a little bit differently, but they serve the same function. They receive an amount of energy that has been inputted into the grid, and they certify it with their own means.
Yeah, so the industry standard, right? Like the way that renewable energy markets work, when you say buy a product and that product has a label on it that says like made with 100% wind energy, right? Like the way that works is the company that made that product, at the end of the year, they account for all of the electricity that they used. Then they audit that whole accounting process. Then they go to a broker who sells these renewable energy certificates, and that broker matches their energy use for that entire year with renewable energy produced during that calendar year, or 6 months before, or 3 months after, right? And so they also try to source based on geography. So generally, they try to source renewable energy that is as close as possible, sort of on the same grid, but they balance that with how expensive those renewable energy certificates are. So as Julius was talking about, they can vary a lot based on location. And so what we're trying to do is really tighten that relationship between energy consumption and renewable energy production. So, this 21-month window, right? Calendar year, 6 months before, 3 months after is pretty huge, especially when you consider the fact that renewable energy is non-dispatchable, right? So you can't control when it's actually produced. And so one of the things that we're aiming to do, right, is not just make everything public, but also build this sort of tighter connection between an individual storage provider's electricity consumption and the generation by particular renewable energy assets, right? And so, different rec registries vary, as Beltran was saying, a lot by sort of the technology that they've implemented and the sort of the degree of digitization. They all record the fact that renewable energy was produced by a particular generator over a particular time period, but the degree to which you're really able to go into that registry and match storage provider consumption to granular energy production, that varies a huge amount just because of the IT systems and accounting systems that these different registries have in place. So that's one of the reasons I think that the Zero Labs, platform and things people are building to bring a lot of this industry into the Web3 space are going to be really, really powerful, because you can just sort of natively work with content address data in this really granular and verifiable way that's difficult to do in a Web2 system, right? Where things aren't verifiable and data is split between all these different databases and they have different sort of accounting systems. But I think building those sorts of tools are going to be really, really powerful. And ultimately, that's going to be good for renewable energy, right? Because if anyone, if you don't have to be a giant company, right, to do this like yearly accounting and match that to renewable energy certificates through brokers that only are used to dealing with large orders, right? If you don't have to be one of those large power consumers, and as a smaller power consumer, so an individual storage provider or an individual person, you can just buy renewable energy certificates that match your consumption, right? That's going to bring a lot more people into the market supporting renewable energy, and it's going to create more of a revenue stream to solar and wind projects, right? That are going to hopefully allow more money to flow into that and allow more generation capacity to be built. So that's sort of the, how, right, both were, in storing all that data, that underlying data on Filecoin, right? So storing this record of who's actually producing that power and when, right? That's this way that we're making Filecoin more sustainable, but also using Filecoin to store data that's going to let us hopefully, help catalyze the rest of the energy system to be more renewable.
Alan, what I always liked about that approach of getting very granular is it would let me as a consumer of those services, right, of storing the files on Filecoin, allocate that out to my product, right? So when we start talking about all like the scope 3 emissions reporting and in particular the indirect emissions, because that's where a lot of this would start to classify, I have to be able to figure out how can I do that, not at an annual basis, but as I'm producing products, as they're getting passed on to my customers, and they have to inherit those emissions and the whole circle here. So I think the more we get these foundational tools in place to do things in smaller and smaller time units and more directly allocatable back to the services that are being consumed, the better we'll be able to do the accounting on the back end, right? That's what gets me excited about these, these projects, is that you're doing it at a micro level in a way which lets you have confidence in the big roll-ups, right? The big macro level pieces of it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you can, if you can really content address everything, right, then you don't have to have these centralized entities doing all of that accounting and sort of holding the whole system together, which takes a lot of effort, right? When you have to maintain all these databases and try to make them interoperable, when you can just have, build these systems in a way that they're natively interoperable. And there are going to be some standards, right, for passing that sort of data, like you were talking about scope 3 emissions and embodied emissions in products between different systems and between different dApps, between different companies. But yeah, that's very much the dream that I want to work towards, is be able to really track emissions throughout a value chain in that super, super granular way. And again, like enable more people to see what is my actual footprint and what can I do to reduce that? And what can I do to mitigate the parts of it that I can't reduce to zero?
Kevin.